Hello, and welcome back to another season of Reddit League. It has been a few months. I think it's been 3 or 4 months, actually. But we're back with season 8. Preseason is over, and we're ready to go for another season of Reddit League. Today, I am joined by Paschtetli to introduce you to all of our new and recurring players, as well as the map schedule, of course. Paschtetli, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me. How are
Thanks for
you?
Thanks for joining me again. I'm doing well. You joined me last season as well, I think, for this preview show. So you've
Yes.
got some experience. So we'll see if that pays off.
Yes.
um, so yeah, let's get right into it. We'll start by showing you the schedule, which consists of the following maps over the course of 11 weeks plus 2 in the middle of a break over Christmas, which is the country of Malta, followed by Israel, our first world map in Dams of the World, followed by 3 more countries in Chile, Lesotho, and Philippines. Then we go to an unusual world, Africa, Utah, our US continent, US/Canadian continent, then Sweden, and then the AI made world map to finish us off. Of those maps, Israel, Africa, and Utah will be handpicked by myself, as well as I think for Israel and Africa by Toll for Division 1, and Pashtetli already snagged Utah for himself to map for Division 1. But yeah, an interesting collection of countries. Quite a few, I think, that we've seen before. We definitely had Lesotho in Reddit League before. We had Sweden before. I feel like I've seen Malta and Israel in a lot of places, but I don't actually think they've been in Reddit League before. But yeah, a few
Um,
repeats. Yeah, Dams of the World as well.
Dance of the
So
World. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Prashtetli, what do you think about these maps?
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you said Utah is a continent, and I thought that was kind of anyway.
Yeah, it's my personal continent. How
Yeah.
dare you
No.
disagree?
Yeah. No. I kind of like the map pool better than last, to be honest. But yeah, Malta, small country, easy to learn. Uh, Israel is an I have quite an unpopular opinion about it. I think it's because those road numbers are just amazing. The only thing that is annoying is the Tel Aviv urban area,
Mm,
but it's also got nicer with Gen 4 recently, so yeah, that's something to look forward to. Dams of the World is, I think, one of the one. It's a nice world map. I like it. It has some diversity in it. It's from what I can remember
mm,
than 2 years ago when we first had it. Chile, of course, with a good road numbering, cool to have. Lesotho is uh, kind of rough because the signage is not great, but it's learnable as well. Not many roads. Philippines, you gotta learn those provinces. That's basically it. An unusual world I haven't actually played. I don't think. Not sure what that consists of. Uh, Africa. Well, that's kind of iffy continent. Pinpointing is hard, but it's also has also a lot of stuff to learn, like Nigerian states and Kenyan counties, etc., etc. Utah has very good signage, especially those street signs. Have most of the time a city name on them, which is very nice. Sweden, I don't particularly like Sweden because sometimes if you're not uh, on big roads, the info you will get is very, very, very slim. And AI made world map, that's kind of a neutral thing for me as well. Not much to say about that.
yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you said there. And we'll obviously in the coming weeks get into most of these maps one by one. We'll say a few words about Malta here because obviously in week 1 that will have already been played, so we won't have time to speak about it too much anymore. So I think Malta is an interesting country to play. A lot of it is, you'd think, fairly straightforward and easy, but it can be deceptively hard sometimes to pinpoint in some of those urban areas because while you do have a lot of information such as street names and stuff like that readily available, they can sometimes be difficult to find because, there's a lot of I don't know if they're suburban. I think they're actually their own cities,
They
but
are.
yeah, there's a lot very close together. And I've played a lot of Malta, and to this day, like I don't know, every 10th map or so I play, I still see another city name that I'm like, I have not heard of this before. Where was this in
Yeah.
all of my other games? And if you happen to spawn in such a city and you know get very unlucky, it can be possible to just not find much else to help you with. So I do think some people might struggle a bit with it, more so maybe in the lower divisions down there. I think it wouldn't be a surprise if we have some divisions where it does come down to time and more than half of the Division 25Ks, because after all, it's a small country and not every seed can be hard. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. It'll probably end up similar to what map did we have last season? I think that
Ireland, maybe?
Ireland, exactly. Yeah, where we
Also first week.
yeah where we had, I think, like 7 or 8. I think it was 8 25Ks in Division One out of 12 players. We only have 10 people in Division One this season, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see 8 25Ks again, if the map obviously it lends itself towards it. All right,
Yeah.
go on.
Also, I wanted to add one small thing. In those urban centers, you talked about
Yep.
the two things to look out for. One is the blue directional signs in Valletta. They are meta to know. And the other thing is bus stops. Of course, they always say the city.
Yeah.
That's probably your most helpful thing.
Yeah. I would say don't give away my secrets, but I assume there's no player in Division 1 who doesn't know that, so I don't care.
Yes.
All right. Then that were our maps for this season. Looking forward to most of them. I'll get to what I'm not looking forward to when we get there. For now, let us
Right.
move on to our first division, I guess, of its own. We're moving on to Reddit League next, where this season we have 18 players. I think it was 19 last season. We'll see how many actually, go through the whole 11 weeks and how many drop out some way through. I'm expecting probably we'll see 13, 14 of them going through all weeks, maybe missing one here or there. And yeah, we've got a pretty full list again. So player count roughly the same as last season for the whole setup, and quite a few familiar names. Paschtetli, why don't you take us through them?
Yes. One thing I immediately noticed is the amount of French players
Hmm.
and the amount of good French players. That's quite stunning to see. With only 3 people going through this season, um, there's definitely much competition. As we've seen last season, Next can be very competitive itself, despite being like not. Uh, I'm saying it again. I'm sorry, guys. Not a real, not a real. No, but well, there are a lot of good names. Angor, I think, is in La Ligue in
Yes.
one of the teams. Division 2. Bugor, I've not heard of. Then Arga, those are. I think Arga is Preis Organisé League 2 team, La Ligue. And Tets is Grata and Gerot, League 3 team, if I remember correctly. Those are both pretty good teams, I have to say. With Grata and Gerot take home the regular season yesterday. Phonopsis I've not heard of, to be honest. Neither Kate Champ, but no idea who that is. GameFab is, of course, a legend. He is doing all the coding on sheets for La Ligue. He's a decent player himself, also teammate of Arca. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in one of the top spots. Well, he doesn't really have time to practice, so I'm not sure if he actually will. We'll see. Then Subaru is a new name for me. Never heard of them. Soundbite, of course, that's a legend. I think he's been in Reddit League for quite a while, but he has been
Yes.
relegated. Yes. He's been around for a while, but I guess that he's not been practicing practicing as much to stay up with the other players, the upper divisions. Dijo is a nice guy. I've actually chatted with him quite a bunch on some French servers. Doesn't really speak English, so that made it a little bit hard for me. But he's, I think, with the Tonton Gesser in League of La Ligue. He's pretty good in some countries. He has his flaws. I guess that makes sense for lower divisions of Reddit League. And Anku is also in La Ligue with joined this season. One of the only Southeast Asian players, or maybe the only, even sure. I also think he's mainly a no moving player. Not actually sure. I've not really paid attention to his performances in different competitions lately. Arantes is a new name to me. Never heard of them. Well, despite of Map Battle League, where they also just joined. Much to say. Darila, she is also in La Ligue. I'm not sure, but I've seen her play well in Coupe de la Ligue this year, which happened this spring. So she definitely also might be one of the favorites for me. Rukazu, I think he's also Katan Kerot with that's sure. I've also don't really know who he is. Wildgern is I think he's in Vitfe, also a League 3 team. Also don't really know how good he is. Piero, also Katan Kerot, if I remember correctly. He has his moments from what I've seen in the team's streams. Then Joe, he's been playing a lot of competitions. I've seen him basically everywhere, but he's always on the lower side of the results. So he might put up a fight because of his experience, but we'll see. Boris, I think he's been in Reddit League Next for quite a while. At least his name is familiar, but from yeah, that's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can add because you said you've never heard of Fugor before. He did play last season in Reddit League Next as well and finished in 11th place out of, let's say, 18. So yeah, he's been here before. For an Opsis, the same goes for him. He finished 9th. And apart from that, let me actually check when was season 6 was the first next season, and that already had Boris. Yeah, I think he joined in that season. Same goes for Joe, I believe. And then Soundbite you mentioned, I was just curious on when exactly he started. He's been here since season 3, and he'll go into his first Reddit League next season now. We'll see if he can qualify back into Division 5. I think last season, like in season 6, he was also already relegated, but then managed to get back in Division 5 through preseason, if I'm not mistaken, but I might be. Actually, I was mistaken. Never mind. Ignore me. That may have been... No, that was Cookers, actually, that I was thinking of. So we'll see him in a second in some of the other divisions as well. But yeah, I think you summarized it quite well. In terms of who I think could be favorites, I think Ted's is definitely a candidate who could very easily end up in those top 3 spots. I think just looking at the preseason results, obviously you've got, I think this is actually in order of the preseason results. So starting from 14th place in preseason downwards. So really anyone in sort of the top few places there is a good candidate, as well as Tarila, who missed the last week of preseason, which is why she's so far down the list. She wouldn't have been able to qualify for Division 5 anyway, even with a 25k on the Malaysia seat, but it would have put her like very much closer to the top of that list. So we'll see if she just missed that week or if she just is not going to continue playing. I don't know yet, but yeah, we'll find out. I think realistically, we're probably looking down to about Soundbite. So the first 9 plus Tarila maybe. And then maybe Boris as well, who didn't play preseason. He just wanted to continue playing in Reddit League Next. as candidates for maybe ending up top three. But obviously, preseason is just 5 games, 5 maps that can sometimes be very different than the actual season maps end up. So we'll just have to see how that performance in that carries over into Reddit League itself. So we will now move on to the first actual division according to Paschtetli, um,
I'm
into
sorry. I'm
Division
sorry again.
5B. And here we got, again, actually, not again, I haven't done it yet. So let me thank Varum again for doing the graphics this season. He's made some nice improvements for this preview show here with the little arrows and the stars. And I gave him the data for the players' last season's results, which I think adds quite nicely to this as well. So for Division 5B, Paschtetli, who do we see here?
I mean, my good friend Ice Pelican. I have to talk to him first, of course. He's also from Bern. I think I'm at liberty to say. We've never actually met, but he's a nice guy from what I've seen and heard of him. We were playing some competitions together, and yeah, I mean, he's a nice guy, and I know he can play very well in moving competitions. He has showed that if he actually cares enough to practice, that's the point, I guess. But yeah, I think he's one of my favorite. Also, yeah, as a fellow Swiss, even Bern, I have to root for him. Then, of course, some French people. It wouldn't be a Reddit or a moving Geocaster tournament without French people. Antoine Poire, which or who is also a good friend of mine. We've played some tourneys together, mainly La Ligue No Move tourney last spring as well. He's a nice guy. He streams a lot. I think he has also quite some potential to do well. Same goes for him if he practices. Uh, uh, Headache Me, also a very nice guy. He's been in Reddit League for a very long time. He has been relegated last season from Division 4 or the season before, actually, already. I don't remember. Um, Calamity will clarify that
Well,
later.
he was in he was in Division 5B and he was 6th last season, so it can't have been
Oh,
last season.
yeah, true, true. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Also, doesn't really play the game as much anymore because, yeah, well, he has other things on his mind recently. Um, yeah, who else? Boldre is also a good player, but I don't know much about him. Um, then Bananoki, I think, uh, is doing pretty well in some other competitions. Let me actually check later when you're talking.
Mm.
But Clemens also, I mean, he has his moments. He has his good maps where he performs really, really well. Um, and then yeah, he's doing quite poorly in some others. So I mean, he can be one of the top players, of course, with if the map pool favors him. Then the rest, I think, those who I didn't mention, those are more kind of in the middle field for me.
Yep. All right. Then let me add on to that. I think this is a fairly even division overall, I would say.
I would agree.
I think we do have some people who could be favorites. It kind of depends on how well they gel with the map pool this season. I think Antoine Pinard has a shot. Abfluxid, Cephalin, Bananoki, maybe. Um, Maybe Blitzer played really well in in Reddit League Next last season as well. Those are all candidates who I can see fighting for those top spots. I think Damir, if he manages to play every leg for once, may also be a candidate for those spots. And then we have some other players who may show up, who
Mhm.
are kind of inconsistent week to week, as you mentioned, Clemens, Eric Me as well. You know, you could get a great performance from them in one week, and then the next week they just completely disappear down to the bottom of the table. So we'll have to see. I think most people like there's no like clear relegation candidates though for this division. I think we're at the point where everyone here, has done a good job to end up here. And I wouldn't be surprised if for any of them, with any of them for staying up. That's, I think, the best way to phrase it.
Yeah. One thing to add about Bananoki, he's in La Liga, he's in League Two with his team of Buds. He's doing quite well there. I am not sure which rank they ended up in, but at least they are in the upper half of the table, if not top five. In both Cope League and Map Battle League, he's in Division Three, so he's definitely a player with some skills. That's for sure.
Yep. And then let's have a look at who is on the opposite side of that Division 5 as we move over to them. And yeah, we see some more interesting names over here. My first impression when looking at this was that this division is slightly, ever so slightly, higher in terms of skill than Division 5B on average. I don't know if that'll be true. We'll see over the course of the season. But yeah, talk us through what Division 5 has on offer.
I would honestly disagree, to be honest. But I mean, I would say they're pretty equal. I don't see like much underrated players in here or much overrated players in here. I think both 5 and 5B are good Division 5 yeah, divisions. You know what I mean? I mean they're kind of accurate to players belong in Division 5, I would say. I mean, there are some players that definitely deserve to promote. But anyway, who is in this division? Mr. John Boy, let's start at the bottom again. He's also teammate and a good friend of Ice Pelican. I know him from there. Very active on the German Discord server. I think he's more of a no-moving player, but I might be wrong. So let's see how it does in this competition. Sorg the Esdin, Geoclem, Lagege, and Alvi, the French guys, they are all, I think, pretty good. But again, they are like most players on this level. They have their strengths and also their weaknesses. Geoclem, I think he's good at practicing countries. At least I've seen him playing a lot of countries in La Ligue for his team, and he's never really disappointed. From what I can see, much about the other French guy except Lagege being in Le Pied Carré, which is an insanely skilled team. Then Cookers, Penguin, and yeah, Bombadil, I guess, as well. Those are kind of the for me the mid table candidates. They are well, they can have their moments. Yeah, I don't know. They I guess they don't practice as much as others. Maybe not so much Penguin. I think he does practice more than others, but um, they are definitely more mid-table candidates for me. Laban, he has been relegated 2 seasons ago from Division 4, if I remember correctly. I think yeah, he's also not very active in the community, so that might be also the reasons he's not very active, not playing the game as much as others. Mr. Fish, I've also never seen outside of Reddit League, so yeah, maybe same goes for him. I would definitely call maybe Geoclem, Sorta, Alfie, and maybe even Penguin actually. Yeah, I changed my mind about Penguin. I think he's one of the top favorites for me now.
Okay. Changed your mind very quickly about that. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, there's a lot of players in this division that have been here for a while. I mean, Bombadil's been around for a few seasons, Penguin's been here for quite a few, Labangreb has been here for like 4 seasons or so at this point. I think Mr. Fish is in his fourth season now, third or fourth. He may have
He
sat
may have
out
missed
one
one.
season. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be his third season now. But we have quite a few players who have played in Division 5 before and who've come close to getting promoted. Penguin finished in third place, losing the promotion playoff against Clemu in season 6. So that came very close. Mr. Fish himself was 4th in season 6 and 5th in season 7. So again, both times very close to those promotion spots. Yeah, Bombadil more so, I think, mid-table or slightly below mid-table in most of his seasons. But yeah, a lot of these players have been around. I think Laban Greb also was in Division 4 at some point and has got
Yes,
relegated from there. Alfie as well, just last season, started in Division 4 in his first season. So I think the potential is definitely there. And we've got a lot of good newcomers. As you said, Geo Clem, he was third in Red League Next last season and got his promotion through there. Aston played in, I think, season 6 through preseason. And then I can't remember if he played like, he did play 3 games actually and then just got red carded. So I thought with that little, I will just have him go into preseason again rather than, keeping his Division 2 spot. And only managed to qualify for Division 5 this time around, but he at least did manage to qualify for the regular divisions. Uh,
that is
so
interesting.
so he showed before that, at least, like a year ago, that he had the potential back then. I don't know if he's just not played that much or if he's, I don't know, just this season's preseason maps favored him less. But yeah, we'll see. I think he's definitely also got the potential to fight for those promotion spots. It'll depend on how well or how much he practices, I guess. Steiner has also been around for quite a while, actually, I think. Played Red League Next since the beginning as well, if I remember correctly. Yes, he was 5th in season 6 of Red League Next. And then ended in 8th last season, where the competition was a bit stronger. Finally managed to qualify through preseason this time. So I'm looking forward to seeing their performances in that. And yeah, I think I've mentioned most people. Yeah, Mr. John Boy, I've heard or seen him around in the German community a lot. I've not really gotten a good handle on his skill yet, so we'll see how he does as well. Looking forward to seeing that. And yeah, I think that'll do it for Division 5, unless you've got something more to add.
I don't think so. No.
All right. Well, then let us move on to Division 4B specifically, where we're now getting to the point where we see a lot of familiar names. Actually, Division 4 has not a single newcomer. Everyone who's in Division 4 has been here before. So why don't you not introduce us, because we know all of them, but maybe for those who don't, as well as for those who've forgotten in the previous 3 months, take us through who's playing in Division 4B right now.
Yes, my old hometown, Division 4B. I've been in that division quite a few times. I've been promoted since then, but anyway, not about me. This is not about me. Uh, yes, Patriots. I think he's sat out the season 2 seasons ago,
Mm,
and he played Division 3 last season. Wasn't doing great there. 12 plays out of 12. I think towards the end he has improved, if I remember
Yeah, he
correctly.
won.
He
He
won a
won his
couple.
last 3 games in a row.
Yes,
It just
exactly.
wasn't enough anymore at that point.
Yes. So that shows he has come back a little, and I think that also would make him at least a contender for promotion. Yeah, Sepp Kiers, he is also quite an OG, I would say. He's been around for a very long time and performing well, but also hasn't quite been able to promote out of Division 4. Clemu promoted from Division 5, I think 2 seasons ago, and has been in Division 4 since then, of course. And he's Swiss. He's a nice guy. I've played also some games with him. Um, he's good at no move, specifically the competitive duels. More, he's good at that for. Uh, Jake Lyons, of course, who is a YouTuber and World Cup, our first World Cup. He's very good at learning stuff and knowing stuff. He knows basically all the subdivisions out there, and he doesn't practice Reddit League. I don't think he doesn't like the competitions kind of set up, which is fair. But yeah, I think he is also one of the favorites, if not the favorite of this season for Division 4B. Dromi, I think he lives in Switzerland. He's a nice guy in the map La Ligue League 3 mapping team alongside me. We've played quite a few games in there together. He's quite good actually. He's also one of the better players, but I don't think he does practice Reddit League. So I'm not sure if he will be on the upper half of the table. Solar Sensei, my teammate, my first La Ligue teammate we were gonna come across. He's very, very, very good at solo, especially Reddit League. He has shown quite some performances. He also doesn't practice anymore. That's has said so for Reddit League. So that's yeah. He can show up for solo games. I think in Lions Den League, which happens on Jake Lions server, he is in the top 5 in the total standings right now, out of I think 150 people or so.
Mm.
So that's quite impressive. Varum, shout out to him for the graphics again. He's a nice guy. I've not actually seen him play that much, but he's been in Reddit League, I think, his second season now. Is that
Yes, I
correct?
think so. Let me just quickly check. Yeah, should be.
Yeah, I also know that he played a co-op fun type of video with
Yes.
you, but I've not really seen him around elsewhere, so I can't really get a good grasp of his skill level. Jack, who is also quite an OG, I would say, been around for a long time, and he's always been kind of in the Division 5, Division 4 area, despite having potential to potentially promote if the stars align, to say. Antoine Pilot, our second Antoine, is a good friend of Poir, the other one we had before. He's also quite good, I would say. They're probably going to promote out of the League 3 in League this season. That shows, because it's an incredibly stacked competition in there as well. That shows great skill. I also don't think he practices as much as others. So, well, I've been saying that a lot. Anyway, Danny Che, he was in Division 4 2 seasons ago, I think, and has been relegated and promoted again,
Yes.
apparently. I remember him not doing very well back then because I was in his division back then. Yeah, but I guess he can have his moments, probably. Because he got first in Division 5A, so that has to be that has to mean something. Zokator is definitely a very strong player. That is one of my favorites for sure, because he got promoted out of next and then out of 5B 2 times in a row. So yeah, that definitely impressive. Greasy, I think he's a very, very, very OG. I think he's been around
Yeah.
forever in
Yeah.
the Reddit community, but also not as active as others. So yeah, he's also one person to look out for. I think my favorites for this season would have to be, well, Jake, if he doesn't get tilted, Solar,
So not Jake.
I guess, Solar, maybe Sekater, and maybe potentially Seb Kirsten Clem.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting division. I think there's a lot of people that could be fighting for those promotion spots, even some that you wouldn't necessarily expect to begin with. I
Oh
think
yeah, oh
I
yeah.
think Jack definitely, even though he was only ninth last season, Division 4B was so close that just one more win instead could have seen him in the promotion playoffs. Um some others too. I think Danny's an interesting case where I think 2 seasons ago, yeah, he did finish last in Division 4 at that time, but he was also, I think, still fairly new to competitive geoguessers, so maybe just needed like a season to get ready. He had like a really good performance in Lithuania that turned some heads. Um, but yeah, as he's shown last season, did really well in that in Division 5A. So definitely a candidate as well to look out for. Maybe if not for promotion spots, then at least to see how he'll do. I think Secadeur, as you said, definitely a candidate. Of course, Solar, Jake, Klimu, all good candidates. Sepp Kiers made it to the promotion play of last season, so you can't leave him out of that as well. And I think Patriots is also an interesting case where, as I said at the beginning, he had a really rough start to last season where I think he picked up 1 point in the first 8 games and then won 3 games in a row and ended up like 1 point away from getting to the relegation playoffs. So if he can keep that form of those last 3 games going, then he's definitely a candidate as well. If he doesn't, then we'll probably be looking at more of like a mid-table, maybe even lower mid-table position for him. Greasy, as you said, has been in the GeoGuessr sphere, I'll say, for 5, 6+ years. So yeah, we'll see what he can offer this season. Of course, got promoted last season as well. So anyone who gets promoted at any point really into the upper division is going to be an interesting case to look at. I think the format doesn't change too much between divisions. 20 seconds time difference isn't too large in most cases. We've seen some people struggle with it a little in the past, but for most people, the time doesn't make too much of a difference. It's mostly the stronger players that they're facing. So yeah, most of the time, people who get promoted end up doing decently well in the division they get promoted to as well. I think Antoine Pilot is one of the only, and I think Dromi I haven't mentioned as well. I think he's mostly just going to be looking at a mid-table finish. Antoine Pilot actually got relegated last season, but because the person he played his playoff against, which I think was Rien de Rien, didn't continue, he got to stay in Division 4 instead. Which we'll see if he can make use of that, or if that's just going to mean that he's going to have an even worse time this season. But that's also an interesting storyline to look out for. Will he make good of his second chance? All right. Well, then let's move on to Division 4A. And yes, some more interesting names in there. I think a lot of people in Division 4 complained a little bit about sort of the balancing between Division 4s. I think this season it's a lot more balanced in terms of player strength between the divisions. But we'll see, I guess. I think also like it turned out at the end of last season that it wasn't all that imbalanced anyway, if you looked at the scores. But it just felt like that for a few people. But yeah, Division 4A, take us through.
Yes, Freckles immediately stands out. He is next to Greasy, probably also one of the oldest members of the community. I think he is Reddit subreddit mod, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Well, he has been relegated from Division 3. He's been in Division 3 forever, since I can remember. So that's kind of a new thing. Will he be able to, stand his stand a chance against other long members of Division 4? That's something to look out for sure. I'm not actually sure how good he is. I don't think he's that active, except Reddit League, but we'll see. Marika, I think he's also in. Yeah, he is in. That's so yeah, he's also definitely a very good player. But I also don't know about much about him. Despite being German, not active on the German Discord server. Then Sheldon, he has every so often quite an insane result in the Cactus League, which is definitely impressive. Because yeah, that's very very competitive, despite not being Anyway, I lost my thought. Anyway, Xander, teammate of mine, very strong moving player. He also doesn't really like the format of Reddit League, same story as Jake and Solar. So he also doesn't really practice anymore, from what I can gather. Um, but he's a nice guy. He has recently learned Russian. I'm not sure if I should say that, but he's
Spoilers.
read he's read the Russia doc from Finbar, so that's um and he almost beat me in our team duel La Ligue team. We had a dual kind of competition in there. He almost beat me there, so that means something. Not to humble myself, but yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites. Sure, Axel. He is I think Shioge. Yeah, he is Shioge. Yes.
Yes.
La Ligue team, Division one of the favorites in there. I think he's a speed running player mainly, but also plays some no move. I'm not sure how good he is at actually practicing injuries. Um, or not sure if he cares enough about Reddit League to practice. That's another story. And then Danny Blunt, also an OG. I remember playing against him in my first season. I'm not quite sure if that actually happened, but at least seeing him around back then. Um, he's also not very active outside of Reddit League, so yeah, that's also not one of my. He's also not one of my favorites. Then Lutin Compris, very strong individual player. In his league team, Gerot, which I mentioned earlier, they have this kind of meme going on. They always have to 0 meter every location. They get pissed if they don't. Um, he's very competitive. I think he's quite good at Romania. Practiced that a lot. He's mainly just a very competitive player. Even though he's not as well known as others, he definitely puts up a fight if he wants to. Then Wakeolok, definitely OG legend. He has his moments. As we've seen before, he has I think 2 seasons ago he almost got promoted out of Division 4, but I think he lost a playoff. Then last season he only got ninth, so that shows something. He has his maps where he's good and others where he struggles more. Joe Fogger, I think. What was his other name? I think Red Fog.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's the same guy as Red Fog. Uh, to be honest, I also don't really know much about. He's also a French player. I get. I guess he's from Brittany. Black says. Then Forsey, teammate of Lutin Compris as well. He's a very nice guy actually. I've chatted with him a bunch as well. He likes to dress up as a monkey in his streams, which is very fun. I think he's a teacher if I remember correctly, and yeah, he's just very funny, very nice guy. Shout outs to him for sure. Also, I don't think he practiced enough to get promoted, to be honest, but he out of character, he definitely would deserve it. Fondorlat, I don't know. I've just seen his name in Reddit League before. That's about it. Hugo, he returned actually. He sat out last season because he had a lot on his plate. He's back. I don't think he will practice as much as well, but he's also been relegated from Division 2, I think even. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
I'll
he's
have to
definitely a strong
check.
player for sure. We'll see how it does. I'm very curious. Um, Then about my favorites, I would say Xander. I have to say Xander, of course. So, Sheldon. I would even count Lutin Compris and Axel as well. Maybe Morica. Yeah, those five.
All right. Well, you've not given me enough time to check, but that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Hugo has not been in Division 2. He
Okay.
started out
Remember.
in Season 2 in
Ah,
Division
that
3.
That's what I was thinking probably.
Yeah, and he lost the promotion battle against myself in
Ah,
that
yeah.
season. And then he's been in Division 3 for quite a few seasons and ended up getting relegated in season 6. Then sat out season 7, but still, kind of obviously the fair thing then is for him to start in season 4 after the season he sat out. You can't just, sit out a season and be like, well, I mean, I was in season 3, in Division 3 last time. Not that he tried to do that or anything. Yeah, lots of interesting players there. When you said Sheldon has been doing quite well in some weeks in Cactus League, I think you meant that he hasn't been worse than 8th in any of the weeks this season and is leading the overall standings, I believe.
Well, they haven't
So,
really been updated though.
well, the other ones have, but yeah, he's doing quite well there. So he's definitely a good candidate for a promotion spot. There's quite a few players here who are. I think we've got a bit more of a clear divide here than in some of the Division 5s between promotion and relegation candidates, or at least, sort of upper and lower table candidates. I think, yeah, besides Sheldon, definitely Xander could always fight for that promotion spot. I think Luton, as you mentioned, is also a very strong player. I think Fondolats, maybe Forzi. Yeah, they just got promoted from Division 5, but they're also very good players. As you mentioned multiple times at this stage, and I've also mentioned a few times, it'll depend a lot on their motivations and how much they want to practice. I think there's quite a few countries this season that could benefit from putting in a lot of work. I mean, the likes of Lesotho, Chile can definitely help. Sweden, it definitely helps. Philippines, it definitely helps. So there's plenty of opportunities if you want to put in the time to give yourself a little advantage. Apart from that, I think most of the rest, I mean, I haven't mentioned Morica yet. Obviously, second place last season is definitely another candidate for promotion as well. Most of the others will probably be there or thereabouts in the midfield battle, trying to not get relegated. Freckles, I can't really say for sure. He's been mostly fighting against relegation in Division 3 for a few seasons. He was in Season 2, in Division 2 before. Is also, I think, from what we've looked through, let me just quickly check. But I believe Freckles has been here since season 1. And I also believe Wakolok has. So we've got 2 players here. I think there's only like 4 or 5 players left who've been here since season 1. Let me actually just quickly go through them because it's not a long list. But I think it's Verdoc, then it's Freckles, then it's myself, and then it's Wakolok, and that's it. And 2 of them are in this division. Seppo is well held out until last season, but he's not here anymore this season. Too busy as well. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how this division pans out too. And I think we've talked enough about it. So let's move on to Division 3 next, where, yeah, I mean, as will be true for all of the rest, but a very strong lineup of players here as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of good friends of mine, lots of nice people all around. Not many that I don't really know at this point. Only 2 to be honest. Well, 3 maybe. Ordboka is one of them. Or as well, my Norwegian friend corrected me once. I think it's Ordbuka. No, I might be wrong though. He's been around for a while as well, but well, only really playing the odd Reddit competition as Reddit League. And yeah, he's been relegated last season, so that maybe a sign of him doing not as good this season as well. WTF, I think he's been doing well before he got relegated the season before. I think he was quite at least mid-table in Division 2 back then. I might be wrong though. But he's from Croatia. He provided me with some tips about Croatia once when I asked. So that was, but beyond that, I haven't really interacted with him. So no. where he's good at. Then Dante, uh, he's in Piet Carré, French team, which is quite good, as I mentioned before. Um, he is definitely strong at world maps, from what I can gather. Um, he has his moments. Yeah, Nakiro is one of the favorites for sure. He's he got promoted 2 seasons ago, but has not. Uh, he didn't get promoted again, but he is definitely one of the favorites. He's good at practicing countries, very used to it as well. Hexalt, same goes for him. He also got promoted out of Division 4 2 seasons ago. Definitely a strong player. He's in Hexagon League One team, and um, yeah, they have had not the best of seasons, but it's definitely not because Nakiro, not because of Hexalt. I think he learned Khmer once before for a Coupe de la Ligue game against Mackem, if my memory isn't wrong. He lost that though. Closed is the third one. I don't really know. Um, yeah, not much to say about him, to be honest. Bastek, he's the kind of the owner of the La Liga server. Quite a busy man these days, so I don't really expect much practice out of him. Well, he never really practiced for it, so that's kind of a meme at this point. But yeah, I think he likes Reddit League in the sense of being a casual competition, and it wouldn't surprise me if he just based on natural skill got a good result in. He got ninth last season, but I think I wouldn't count him out entirely. This Piquet, oh, he's also one of my favorites. He's a good speedrunner. He plays a lot of moving. Um, yeah, I would definitely call him a favorite. Carpographer, of course, teammate of mine, very nice guy. And, met him on the Eiffel Tower. Fun story. But yeah, he is also not practicing as also not been practicing as much recently because of college. But I mean, he has very much a raw skill. I mean, he has a good sense of where he is, good at pinpointing, has a quick fit mind, good at maths as well. That will probably help him out in the long run. We'll see how he does on those sets of maps. Last season he got first pretty convincingly, so yeah, we'll see if he can keep that going. Oli, on the other hand, is also one of those I don't really know. He's been playing a bunch of Reddit League and Mapad League and such, but not really active beyond that. He's nice in the sense in those small interactions we had. But yeah, I mean, I think yeah, he has his moments as well. I remember him doing surprisingly well in some weeks. Mr. Swiss, no, also one of my teammates. He's very good at no moving, or well, he practiced it a lot. So his moving games may be a little bit more rusty, but he got also pretty convincing result last season, and I wouldn't count him out. He has definitely his strengths, and he also likes to practice. So, and some free time on his hand as of recently. So, I think he is also one of those who might end up in the promotion spots. Ofendani, our newcomer of the division, Austrian guy. He is in Division 1 of Coop League. I think I'm not quite sure about Mapad League, but also in the upper
I think he's in my
division for
division
sure.
and Division 2.
Yeah, very likely. Yes, he is. I also don't really know him much, but he's very active on the German Discord and he practices a lot. So yeah, he is one of my favorites too. So I would say Ofendani, Swiss, maybe Piquet, probably Piquet, Nakiro and Hexa favorites for this season.
Yeah, I agree with most of that, to be honest. I don't have a good enough grasp on Ofendani yet in terms of how well he's going to do in moving maps. So I feel like for season 1, he might not be quite there yet to fight for the promotion spots, especially because I think the competition in Division 3 this season has gotten very strong with a lot of the promoted players there. I think mostly I favor some of the promoted players over some of the sort of existing players. That's not quite the word, but um, over some of the players who've either gotten relegated from Division 2 or stayed in Division 3. I think Biquet, yeah, as you said, Biquet, Carp are probably my two favorites alongside Exalt and maybe Tante if he can keep up his performances from last season. Nakiro is kind of always very consistently around mid-table, I feel like, with relatively few sort of highlights that make him stand out. He's just always going to bring a relatively decent performance. Sometimes that will be enough to fight for the promotion spots. Sometimes it just won't be quite enough. And yeah, I think with some of the competition this season, I think I probably would see him more so in like a fifth, sixth, seventh place again. I think WTF, he only got 5 points last season in Division 2. He'd already, like the season before that, in Season 6, he was already last in Division 2 and kind of said, well, because two people behind him kind of got red carded, so he didn't get relegated even for last place. And he was kind of like, well, I don't feel like I belong here last season already in Division 2.
Yeah.
So now he's in Division 3 now, and he's got a chance to show if he belongs here or if he wants to go down even further. But yeah, I think his motivation wasn't too high last season, so we'll see if that changes. I think Ortboka got a little bit unlucky with 16 points getting relegated last season out of Division 2. Performed quite decently, and I think also screwed up recording his playoff games.
Oh,
I think he would have
against
otherwise,
Beasley, yeah.
yeah, I think he would have otherwise won and stayed in Division 2. So unfortunate there, but he still has a chance to make his way back there. Who did I not mention? Yeah, Pastek. Let me quote what he said. Let me find him in my messages again. He said when re-signing, I can promise once again to change of mindset, but I prefer not. But who knows? That's maybe the season. As a direct quote from him. So he's probably not going to practice, but maybe something happens and he will. But probably not.
Maybe he was struck by a lightning and
Yeah, yeah,
he changed man and
maybe, maybe. I think he'll try to avoid relegation. I think that's
I hope
what
so.
we can expect out of him.
He's a quality player. I hope so.
Yeah,
He deserves to be in the.
yeah. And then closed, I wouldn't be surprised about anything from him, really. I could expect him getting 7 points. I could expect him getting 25 points. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on how much time he
25
has to practice.
25 is a stretch, to be honest, in this
Yeah,
division, but
a little bit, but
we'll see. We'll see.
we'll see. Yeah, he's been in Division 3 since season. Wait. Since season 3, I believe. Yeah, he got promoted out of Division 4 in season 2. So he's also been around for a very, very long time, but not quite as long as I think the 4 people I mentioned before. Anyway, he's been around for a while. And yeah, I think I mentioned everyone. I don't think I mentioned Ollie and Swiss Snow, actually. I kind of glanced over them. I think they're also kind of like Nakiro, good candidates for like a fifth, sixth, maybe. If they perform very well, definitely could be potential for a promotion spot. Same obviously goes for if someone of the expected favorites kind of has bad performances. Obviously, that opens up some spots. But I wouldn't count them among my immediate favorites for the direct promotion spots. But I also wouldn't be very surprised if they end up there. All right, let's move on. We have 2 more divisions to go. So let's start our last 2 with Division 2. And yeah, quite a few new faces here as well as some returnees. Not too many people who were in Division 2 last season returning. But yeah, take us through those, if you will.
It took me a second to realize who XEW is. but it's Max, actually, Max FI.
Yes.
I think he changed his Geoguessr name.
Yes.
But yeah, let's start at the top again. RT Lewis, didn't he get relegated? No,
No.
no, no relegated players did return, I guess.
Correct.
He, uh, I don't know much about him. I don't think I mean, he got fourth last season. That's impressive, but also I've also only seen him in Reddit League, as some others mentioned before. Then Fungus, our second World Cup attendee. He made it to the semifinal lost against Harm. No, that can't be it.
Consensus.
Kansas?
Yes.
Kansas. I always confuse Kansas and Harmless for some reason. But yeah, he put up a fight there. He's your teammate, so you can tell me about him later.
Mhm.
He's a very nice guy, very humble, and he's definitely very strong. I'm probably more scared of him, to be honest, in this division. Or yeah, maybe not. We'll see. Samo T, I don't know him. He's also a Reddit League player, but not active in the community elsewhere. Guelo, also your teammates. I think he also has his moments. He practices for Reddit League, which is a scary thing because he's a skilled player naturally. So yeah, that's there to look out for. I don't think he'll be one of those who promote, but he's definitely, yeah, as I said, 1 to 4. Diesel, he would have been relegated, as we mentioned before,
Yeah.
if it wouldn't have been for the recording mishap. But he's very strong, especially at learnable countries. So your Lesotho, your Malta. What did we have? I
Philippines,
guess those.
Sweden.
Yeah, those less because he likes to learn coverage and
Mm.
learn roads basically. So Lesotho is definitely, I would call it, one of his strengths if he has time to practice, because he's a very, very smart and busy man, traveling a lot, these kind of things. But yeah, if season goes well, if he has time to practice, he's one of my favorites for sure. Lunasieko, what a legend, to be honest. He won against Blinky in Coupe de la Ligue last spring in the final. He was, yeah, he's my teammate. I didn't mention that. He's just very good at moving game, speed running, Cactus League as well. Very skilled player, very humble as well, very nice. Yeah, not much of a non-moving player, but since that is not important in this journey, he's one of my favorites for sure. F. Brasseur joined Reddit League last season. I've also not seen him elsewhere. He said back then that I think his promotion out of Division 3 was quite lucky, or maybe yeah, he got lucky with matchups or so, but he had his moments. I won against him, I remember that, but we'll see how he does. I'm very curious, to be honest. Then we come to myself. Yes, that's me. I would not call myself a favorite. That would be a stretch. I got promoted last season. I didn't think that would happen. I played against Mick Piet, who didn't return actually. But I basically got promoted thanks to a kind of lucky Ecuador middle of nowhere 5K. And that, well, that was enough to get promoted. I mean, not quite enough. I mean, the whole other season that led to that point. But I mean, I usually like to practice quite a lot for that league. It's one of the OG tourneys, you gotta put that work in, like I used to for every single season so far. I think the map pool favors me, my play style, I would say. But yeah, it's also kind of like dependent who I get in which week. I would hope for a mid-table result. I don't think I will relegate or promote, to be honest. And then Max FI, he didn't play last season, but to be honest, you'll have to talk about him. Truly, didn't really pay attention to his performances before. Rafa, I forget which team. I think Lubrizol before last season, and maybe 5 nights now in La Ligue. I don't think he has been. They have been doing that well in there this season, but um, he's one of those players that you know, if he actually practices, can do well. But I'm not sure if Division 2 is quite his level. I would not be surprised with a relegation because the field is so stacked this season. Not to humble myself, but Simon Goose, um, he's very good. He's also gotten like top 5 Cactus Leagues this season every single time. One of the favorites probably out of the newcomers for sure. But I mean, yeah, he's also in other competitions recently, but I don't know. He's just very good all around. He's good pinpointer. He knows a lot about the game and about the world. Mm, I'm definitely scared to face him. Dodop, I don't really know. He's a talent player, member of Pizza Gallo, and one of my Cope League, not my Cope League, the Cope League teams. Let me look up how it's called. Marche Lombard, exactly. I also don't think he's one of the favorites for this. I more so see him to maybe relegate. I think he's strong and no moving, as all of Pizzagallo, but we'll see. My favorites for this season are, as I said, Fungus for sure, Diesel Looney, my two teammates, and Simon Goose. I would call those that the most likely to promote.
Yeah, definitely reasonable. Let me first mention the team that Rafa is on in La Ligue is called Sismoir d'Affinage.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Apart from that, let me start with him right away. I remember, the only thing I really remember about him is I think it was one map in Map Battle League. I don't remember if it was season 1 or season 2. Where it had like 500 locations or so, and he just like learned all of them by heart to get like a 25k in like 40 seconds. Back when Map Battle League still had maps that you could just learn all of the locations from. So he's definitely a player who puts in a lot of effort if he cares about something. We'll see if he shows that this season. And if he does, I definitely think he's got what it takes to stay up in Division 2. But purely based on sort of like, if we want to call it like innate skill or something like that, he's probably on the weaker side of the field. If we're talking favorites, I mean, probably my actual like favorite for first place would be Lunacy. Maybe slightly biased, but I think he's the strongest player on this specific skill set that Reddit League requires. There's definitely other skill sets that he's not quite as skilled on, but for this, I think you're gonna have to play very well to get past him. Fungus and Guelo as my teammates, also both very good players. I think Fungus still kind of needs to get a little bit more used to pinpointing. Not that he's bad at it or anything, but it's not quite as up there as some of his other skill sets. So I feel like if we're looking at that, he's still got a decent chance of getting into the promotion spots. He was on track for that for quite a lot of last season, then kind of dropped the ball towards the end, which made him drop from like second down to sixth in like the last 3 weeks or so. Yeah, I'd count him among the favorites for top 4 for sure, and anything in that is a little bit up in the air. Simon Goose, as well as you mentioned, could definitely be up there. I've seen a lot of very strong performances from him. I started with Guelo and then didn't continue. Guelo, as you said, definitely is someone who will put in the time to practice certain maps, but maybe on some of the others on your typical world map, for example, or maybe some of the country maps that you can't quite practice as well, he might also be struggling a little bit with the sort of quality level of the field here in Division 2. So, yeah, probably not really a promotion candidate, but if he just gets a decent performance in all of the maps that he can play decently well, then I think he should also be capable of staying in the division. Yeah, Dodop, I can't really say much about. Same as you, I've not heard of him before, really. He's done a good job in preseason to get here. We'll have to see how he does in the season. Max, or however he now wants to be pronounced, I don't know. Maybe he's fine with sticking by Max if he wants it. If he wants us to change it, he has to tell us. Otherwise, we'll keep calling him Max. Yeah, he's just been very solid throughout. Let me actually quickly check when he started in Reddit League. But I think it was season 2 as well, where he started in Division 4, then got promoted to Division 3, immediately promoted again to Division 2, where he then was for seasons 4, 5, and 6. And he finished those in 5th, 6th, and 7th, respectively. So always kind of in the mid-table in Division 2. And yeah, now he's sat out for one season. The field has changed a little bit. Like, let me actually look at Division 2 from 2 seasons ago. Let me see if there's anyone who's still here. You've got Samo and you've got Guelo. Those are still here from 2 seasons ago. Everyone else has changed. So there's not a lot of comparisons here. But yeah, I think he's pretty likely to end up around mid-table again, as long as his skills haven't changed massively. I don't know how much he's played in the time that he's sat out between season 6 and now. But he's still a decent player, I assume. Diesel, as you mentioned, very good player, but will depend a lot on how much time he can put in. And then we've got Samo and RT Lewis, I think, left, and F Brasseur, who I all kind of rate around a similar level, where I don't know them that well. I think they've all debuted last season, unless I'm mistaken. But I think I'm right on that. So they've all got one season behind them. Samo finished. Actually, never mind. Samo debuted in season 6, actually, where he finished in 5th in Division 2 before his 7th place last season. I think they've all got the potential to fight for that kind of 3rd, 4th place. Whether they actually manage to make it there, we'll have to see. I think one of them probably will end up in those promotion playoffs. But who, I can't say. Who knows? We'll
And you
find
forgot
out.
me.
Oh, right. Wait. You've talked so much about yourself already. I kind of thought I was already done with that. All right. You there. Yeah. I think, honestly, a lot of what I said about, not necessarily about not knowing you, because that's not true, but a lot of what I said about where the likes of Samo, Lewis, and who else did I say? F Brasseur, where they might finish around that, potentially making it to the playoff spots, but probably only like one of them. I think that also kind of applies to you, where I wouldn't be
can agree, yeah.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if you make it to 4th place, but at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if you end up 6th, 7th, or something along those lines.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Good, you had no choice. All right, then let's move aside all of those, Division 2, who cares? Let's move on to Division 1, where the real magic happens.
Talking about humbling oneself.
Yep. Yeah, Division 1. Take us through it.
Yes. Bastel, what a legend. He won last season, and he was in the final 2 seasons ago, but lost to Barry Fishy Bear. I think, yeah, he's very, very active in French, so in the international community as of lately. Very skilled mapper. He knows a lot about Street View and funky locations, but since that's not really helpful in that sort of competition, he also practices moving games. which is very helpful for this competition, and also the reason why he did so well last season before. He's just very very very, very talented and likes to practice stuff, and very humble guy, very very just nice guy to hang out would recommend him to others. But yeah, definitely one of the favorites. Pluki, OG at this point, I would say. Been around for a while. Very skilled solo player. He is one of those French guys that isn't in a league team along with Murdoch. I can't talk. A rarity at this. But well, he has been around those playoff spots for the last couple of seasons. Wouldn't be surprised if he could repeat that. Then we have some Austrian guy I've not heard of. Then go over
I
to
mean, who
basement.
has?
No, I'm kidding. Calamity, you know, he's your friendly Reddit League organizer. Just very skilled at some stuff. But he's been getting unlucky, I would say, the last in one with either matchups or map pool not quite favoring him as I would or you as much. I would definitely put you in the promotion playoffs promote
Oh, well, I'll promote to Division Zero.
and in the playoff zone. I would definitely put you in there. And then Baseman, yeah, he has been practicing moving, metas as of recently. But he's what was that?
Ignore it. Nothing.
He's also been learning Kabupaten, for example, and I think provinces of the Philippines, and etc. etc. He's a guy that likes to learn stuff and does pretty well in solo competition. I wouldn't be surprised with a playoff again for him. By the way, how is Calamity? How are you and Basement both third last season?
Because we both lost
According
in
to
the
this.
semifinals. So we're
Okay.
technically. I mean, I,
Yeah.
I I was third in the regular season, and I scored
Okay.
more points
That's
than him in the playoff game. So I think
yes.
I don't. Let me actually check in the data that I gave for home if I put Basement as third or fourth, just for completion's sake. I put both of us as semifinalists, so that's fine. Yep.
All right. Then we got Barry Fishybear, my ex-teammate. Is not very active in the community, but has very, very, very high raw skill. He's quick at pinpointing, has a lot of, as I could gather, quite a good place name knowledge, and he's definitely one of those guys that can get a playoff spot if he has enough time on his plate, which I think is that thing which is kind of hindering him of doing extraordinarily well. I can't talk anymore. Good thing we're getting close to the end. Werdog, he's one of the Shogaser dads, I would call him, alongside with Solar. Maybe he's one of the older members of the community. He's been around for a long time as well. But yeah, I think he's also pretty good. He also, I mean, he got promoted and relegated from Division One quite a lot in the past, but he could stay up last season, which is nice. I would definitely put him in mid-table again. I don't think he improved much from last season, or changed his skills or somehow that he would be candidate for playoffs, but we'll see. Then Anna, I think she got a little bit unlucky last season. Despite South Korea being in the map pool, which is her favorite or one of her favorite countries to play. She also knows Hangul, which is impressive. And yeah, she's a moving player, one of the best alongside Blinky, I would say. probably the best. But yeah, I mean, because maybe she's a speedrun player, she doesn't really practice for specific countries as much in moving. So yeah, that may be one of flaws. But she's in my top 4. Then Ottawa, who promoted from last season, is very skilled. He's very talented player. I don't really know much about his specific skill sets, but he's good at Europe from what I can gather, because he's playing that in his league team, consisting only Europeans. That means something. Toto Radio, I also don't really know much about. You can tell me more about him better. Um, yeah, definitely worthy of a Division 1 spot. That's about all I can tell you. Then Mada, teammate of Dodop actually in Co-op League and also in La Ligue. Um, he's also like Dodop, maybe more of a non-moving player, which may be kind of a flaw in this kind of competition. We'll see how he does. He did pretty well, I guess, in preseason to get in Division 1, but we'll see. We'll see turns. My top 4 I forgot to mention as well. Wanted to say definitely Pastel, definitely Pluki. I would put you in Calamity and Anna. Those are my top 4.
Okay. Yeah, I think, being primarily a no moving player is not going to be like a disadvantage, but it might not help you in this skill set, of course.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Going from, you should have said it then. Going from.
English is hard, man.
Yeah. For some of
And
us.
it's 11:30 right now in the evening, so
It's also 11:30 for me. All right, let's go through the list of players. Yeah, I think definitely any of us who've been in the playoffs last season could reasonably get in there as well. But it was so close last season. Anna in 8th place with 18 points. Pastel even was second with 22 points in the regular season. So it was very, very slim margins between everyone. Just Pluki with a little bit of a lead at the top. I think, yeah, probably. I mean, looking at this list, it wouldn't surprise me for almost anyone. Toto Radio, you mentioned you know a little bit less about. He's also a very nice guy. I've done some stuff with him before, played in a team with him for one tournament. I don't remember.
friend.
Was it? Yeah, it was the
I
Tournoi
don't
of
know.
France. Yeah. I remember now.
I watched the video, so I know.
Yeah.
So I know.
I feel like he might be like there are a lot of like 10 out of 10 players here. I think he might be like a 9.5 out of 10 player.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, he was in season 6. He was in Division 1, and he got 5 points in 9 games, and struggled. He then got promoted last season, made it through the playoffs, so he's back here. He's got another chance. I'm sure he'll perform better than in season 6. He also got fairly unlucky back then, to be honest. His total score wasn't that far off. He was like 800 points lower than me, and 8 points lower in like just regular points for the standings. So we'll see if he can perform better in his second try at Division 1. Apart from that, yeah, really, like as I said, no one would surprise me here to make it to the top. I mean, Pluki is just always very consistent at getting these good scores on sort of just like anything really. Does well on the country maps, does well on the world maps. He's got no real significant weaknesses in this format. Not like the best no moving player, but again, it's not really a skill that's too relevant here. Apart from that, yeah, everyone's so strong. Mada is a bit of a surprise package, I guess. We don't really know what he'll show yet. I think it's reasonable that he could be someone who can like come in and instantly do very well and get top 4, but he could have a debut season like Toto Radio as well and just end up like with almost no points at the bottom of the table. Neither would really surprise me, but I just don't know about him enough. I've seen his name around in the community a lot. I've not paid too close attention to what he's done from like a statistics point of view to give like an accurate impression of him. I'm really excited for what Ottawa can do though. Like pretty much whenever I've seen him play, he's done very well and got promoted from Division 2 last season. So I'm pretty interested to see if he can keep up with some of the regulars here in Division 1. And can manage to maybe make his way near the playoffs or even into the playoffs as well. One slight change here, obviously, as some of you may have noticed, and I've pointed out before, Division 1 only 10 players this season. That's because from last season, I mean, Emily got red carded, Shumi and Renata kind of both got disqualified, and Stock didn't return. So
And Hipster as well.
yes, and Flipster, who would have Stock would have been relegated anyway. Flipster would have taken his spot in Division 1, also decided to sit out the season. So 4 players kind of gone. We did have 2 promoted players in Ottawa and Toto Radio, but I felt like with sort of the level of the competition for preseason, like it wasn't like a bad field or anything, but it didn't have those standout players where I say, okay, if they don't all end up in Division 1, something's wrong. So I felt like it's better to just only put one person from preseason into Division 1 and then like decrease the relegation spots and have like I'd rather have the people who've come naturally readily through the divisions from Division 2 promote for next season rather than putting in guys from preseason again and filling it up like that. So the graphic is slightly wrong there. No fault of Barum. I hadn't told Carp yet by the time the graphics were made, so it's still that way in the sheet as well. But I think Carp has fixed it since I messaged him about 20 minutes ago. Let me just quickly check that.
Damn,
Yes, he has.
You're messaging people during the show. That's
yes,
rude.
because I have time while you speak. So yeah, there's only one direct relegation spot in 10th place, and 8th will play a playoff against 9th for the second relegation spot, and then there'll be 3 people coming up from Division 2 next season. Maybe Flipster will return, maybe someone else will return, I don't know, but we'll probably get a 12-player division again next season in Division 1, unless like 7 other people leave somehow. We'll see. But yeah, I think unless you have some last words that you'd like to say.
Yes, I have.
Go on.
What is your top 4?
Oh,
if you would,
right.
if you have to choose 4 people,
okay,
who would it be?
Definitely Pluki. Then I'll put Bastel in there.
2.
I will put. I'll go a bit crazy. I'll put Ottawa in there.
Interesting. 3.
And I'll put Anna in there.
4.
Because I feel like
3 out of those 4 guesses.
I feel like. Yeah, I know Pluki was a bit of a crazy one, but come on. Now, I feel like for Anna, the reason I'm putting her in as opposed to last season was because you mentioned she's gotten a bit unlucky last season, and while that's partially true, if you look at her like results, because she only got 2 wins, whereas like some of the people behind her, like lower down in the table, had like 5 wins but still made less points total because Anna had like 4 perfect scores. Her total points actually weren't that much higher than her position indicates. She was very much around the same level as the people like slightly above her in like Barry, Pav, and Verdok last season. But I feel like this season's maps, even though like, you know, her favorite South Korea isn't there anymore, I think they might be a bit better suited for her skill set. I think Philippines generally, she probably knows all of the provinces. That should be fine. Yeah. I think she'll have a super easy time in Malta. I think she's probably going to do pretty well in Israel. I can't see her doing badly in Chile. Lesotho, I don't know how good she is there, but
that will be interesting to see.
And then, I mean, we've just got Africa and Dams of the World and an Unusual World. I think
And
those are all
Sweden.
fairly
Oh,
straightforward.
Sweden isn't in there for
No,
her.
no, Sweden isn't.
True.
And Utah is just, I don't know. I don't think Utah's too much of an
I-
outlier there.
I'm gonna make that challenge so hard that nobody's scoring more than 10k points.
Well, I mean, you might not get to map any more future challenges then, but we'll see. But no, so basically, my reasoning there is that I think the map pool is a lot more straightforward for her this season. And as you mentioned, like her incredible skill, just, on average, on like a standard map, is, I think, enough if she just, I also think, like she mentioned multiple times, that she just didn't really play that well herself last season. So I think if she can play to her best, then she can definitely make top four. Yeah, Otto is just kind of like throwing him in there. We'll see if it ends up true or not. I think I'm, for like my personal goals, I guess I should talk a little bit about that as well. Obviously, I'll be happy if I make top four again. I just don't want to get relegated. Really, that's the target. If I can accomplish that, I'm fine with anything. Now that might change if I happen to end up like after 7 weeks or so in like a third or fourth place. But for now, that's the target.
I don't think you have the raw skill to get top 4, but we'll see how the season pans out.
Yeah, I think for like the maps, they're not that well suited to me. I like Malta. And the rest is kind of. I don't really like Africa. I don't really like the Philippines, but I'll have to look at the provinces. I don't really like Israel or Chile. I kind of like Lesotho, but I don't think I'm particularly strong at it. And then we've got 2 world maps in there, which I've historically been not that great at compared to the country maps. So I think the map pool isn't brilliant for me. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yes.
All right.
All
And
right.
with that, we've talked for long enough. We've got an hour and a half in. I hope.
Kind of a podcast at this point.
Kind of, yeah. I feel like a lot of people have used it in that sort of sense in past seasons. And I guess that's a good way of doing it. I don't think you need to be constantly staring at the screen for a picture that changes every 20 minutes or so. But yeah, I hope people who are watching or listening, maybe we should put it on Spotify, I don't know.
Yeah, why not?
I hope you enjoyed. And
you could do that actually, to be, for real. I mean,
we could. I mean, I don't know how to do that, but we can look into it. It might be an idea worth checking out.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me try to do the outro
On
for the
that
7th
note.
time. On that note, thanks everyone for watching / listening. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, Paschtetli, for joining me again.
A pleasure as always.
And yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.